So Chapter 9 is going to look at frequency tables and information that's going to require us to look at data tables and graphs. So today we're going to focus on reviewing slope-intercept form. We're going to review intercepts tomorrow so that when we jump into Chapter 9 on Monday, you'll be able to read what it is that we're doing. Do you have a question, Christian? Put your hands down, please. All right, so slope-intercept form is, if you remember, y equals mx plus b. And when we did those breakthrough boxes, a lot of you really struggled with understanding how to graph a system because you couldn't remember to put it into slope-intercept form and therefore graph it, because this tells you everything that you need to graph it. Number 1 is already in slope-intercept form. Okay, what is my slope for number 1? Four? What's my slope? My slope is 2? Negative 4 over 3. So my m right here is this. So m is negative 4 over 3. What is my y-intercept? So my b, this here, is here at the end of my equation. Okay? So far, so good. So this tells me how to graph it. Where do I start based on this information that I have here? To graph it, where do I start? What about negative 4 and 3? What is my starting point? Karina, what do you think is my starting point? Positive 2. Angel, is that the same thing you say? Does anybody think it's anything different? Raise your hand if you said that 2 is your starting point. Okay, because 2 is my y. So this tells me where it crosses my y-intercept, my y-axis. This is my starting point. I find 2 on the y-axis, and that's my starting point. You guys remember? So now how do I graph my slope of negative 4 over 3? Tell your partners first. There needs to be a conversation. I don't hear it. How do I graph my slope? I can't hear you.
You're going to graph your slope by...
Explain. Kevin, can you tell me how to graph this? Negative 4 over 3. I'm going to use that. How do I use that? How? How do I use negative 4 over 3 to graph? Jasmine, can you tell me how? Rise over run, right? She said rise over run. That's wonderful. Rise over run. So this tells me that my negative 4 is my rise and my run is 3. So we said that this is my starting point, right? So my rise is negative. Therefore, do I go up or do I go down? I'm going to go down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And my run is always to the right, a number of 3. I can probably put a third point so I get a nice, clean line. Where's my straight edge? So I'm going to take my straight edge, line up those points, graph it, connect my points, make sure it goes end to end on my graph, arrows on both ends, and then I'm going to label it with my original equation of y is equal to negative 4/3 x plus 2. I'll give you a minute to catch up. All right, so number 2 is already in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So you're going to do that one similar to this one. Here your slope is negative 2. We like it as rise over 1, so we're going to put that negative 2 over 1 to get our slope. 3, 4 are also in slope-intercept form, so we're going to treat it exactly as you did number 1. So 1 through 4 should be somewhat easy. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 5. If you're looking at 5 and 6, these are a little bit different. It says x equals 2, y equals 4. Okay, if you know what that means, it should be simple. If not, I want you to go ahead and do a T-chart, x and y, for both of them. Number 5 tells me what? What does the equation say? It doesn't say 2. What does the equation say? X equals 2. So that tells me every time there's an x, that answer is going to be 2. But my y's, I can use my own. I have 3 favorites that I like to go to. What do you guys remember what those are? 1, 0, and negative 1. So now I can graph these and get my line. For this one, what does the equation say for number 6? So what is my y going to be every time? So I'm going to write 3 negative 4s. And what are those 3 numbers that I like to use? 1, 0, and negative 1. And now I can graph these guys as ordered pairs. So this is going to be x is 2, y is 1. X is 2, y is 0. X is 2, y is negative 1. X is 1, y is negative 4. X is 0, y is negative 4. X is negative 1, y is negative 4. Go ahead and graph both of these. Make sure you're drawing your line end to end, and make sure you're labeling your line. Show me how you graph this. Where do you start? And then your x is 2, so where do you go? You need to graph. Are you starting here? Okay, so where do you start when you graph? All right, some of you guys are really struggling with the graphing. You need to know how to graph. If you cannot graph, you're going to be in some major trouble. When we graph, we're looking at our axis, or plane, coordinate plane. Right? This says Y. This says X. So if you have a set of numbers, give me two numbers under 10. And what? 3 and 2. Okay. Here's my ordered pair, 3 and 2. How do I graph 3 and 2 on this? My 3 is my X. My 2 is my Y. Okay. So unless I already have a starting point as a y-intercept, I'm going to start graphing at my point of origin. Okay, so from here, X is 3, so that tells me to move left or right. Right 3. 1, 2, 3. My Y is what? So am I going to go up or down? Up 2. Okay, if it was a -2, I would have gone down 2. If this was a -3, I would have gone left 3. These tell us left or right or up and down. My X's will either go left or right. My Y's will either go up or down. But you guys need to know how to graph. And this is why we're doing this review before we start Chapter 9. You need to know how to graph. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you what my 5 and 6 look like. I'm not going to give you time to copy it, no, because you need to know how to do it yourself. I just explained how to graph, and I need you guys to be able to do it on your own. Okay, so my 5 told me that X is 2, so my line went up and down. My 6 told me that Y is -4, so my lines went left and right. You have a question, Clarissa? Okay, I hope you guys are digging deep. You might need to go and watch some Khan Academy videos on graphing or coordinate planes to help you out. All right, so go ahead and flip your paper over, because if you look on the back side, they're a little bit different. Okay, so when we have X and Y, what do we really have in front of them? What's their coefficient? Okay, so make sure if you see an X or a Y by itself, you go ahead and add that 1. Okay, so for 7, I'm going to add 1s to both my X and my Y. For 8, I'm going to go ahead and add a 1 there in front of that Y. For 10, I'm going to add a 1 in front of the X. And for 12, I'm going to add another 1 in front of the X. And that just helps me realize that there's actually a number there. It's not just Y. There's one Y, so I'm adding the number. And if you notice, 7 through 12 are not in slope-intercept form. Okay, so that means you're going to have to do some math. You're going to have to do those multi-step equations, and you're going to have to solve for Y. Because the format that we want it in, again, is Y = mx plus b. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take number 8, And I'm going to write it over here on the right-hand side. So I have 2x minus 1y is equal to 4. I'm going to draw that line there because I still want that balance. All right, so I want, here's my goal. Y is equal to mx plus b. That's what my goal is. I want this to look like this. So starting with the problem, I'm going to go ahead and do some math. And I'm going to follow my multi-step equation, my script that I gave you guys, okay? Do I have parentheses? So I don't need to eliminate parentheses. I don't need to use distributive property. Do I have any like terms? No. Okay. So can I add the opposite? Yes, because see what I want is y by itself on this side. So I need to move this guy. How do I move this guy? If I'm going to do negative 2x because I want to move the whole term. I can't separate them unless I'm dividing. So I'm going to subtract negative 2x on this side. And remember that scale, that balance? I also have to subtract it on this side. But I cannot subtract it from 4 because it's not a like term. 4 is 4. This is 2 times x. Isaac, with me. Okay? So when I subtract 2 from 2x from 2x, that becomes 0. So it leaves me with, and I need to bring this down. I need to bring everything down. A common error that is made here is you guys forget to bring down that negative. So now I have negative 1y is equal to, now if this is the format that I wanted in, what am I going to bring down first? That 4 or the negative 2x? So I want to make sure that the order I can switch around. That's fine, as long as I don't change the numbers. And then, or their sign. So this is a negative 2x, and this is going to be plus 4. So I'm pretty close over here. Am I done over here, though? Why am I not done, though? Because it's a number, but the number is what? It's negative. I cannot have a negative y. I need to have a positive y. So to eliminate this negative y, what am I going to do? Not subtract. This says negative 1 times y. How do I undo that? I'm going to divide. What am I going to divide by? I need to get rid of that negative. So if I divide by negative, this becomes a positive 1, or just y. Now on this side, I also have to divide every term by negative 1. Write this down, Chloe? I have a negative divided by a negative. What happens when I'm dividing two negatives? It becomes a positive. So 2 over 1, or 2 divided by 1 is what? 2, right? X. What is a positive 4 divided by a negative 1? It becomes a negative 4. So now I have my m. What is my m going to be? X is x. What is my m? M. It's just 2, but we need a rise and a run, so we're going to put it over 1, right, Clarissa? And what is my b going to be for this, my starting point? Negative 4. So now I can graph this. Okay, I had to do a little bit of math, a little bit of moving things around. I don't know anything different. My numbers are still the same. They're just in a different place. Okay, on the same side of the equal sign, I can move things around without worrying about it. On the opposite side of the equal sign, I have to do it to both sides. I have to keep that balance. Okay, so what's my starting point now on this graph? So I'm going to go to my 0. It's always a y. I'm going to go down to negative 4. And I'm going to plot that point. Okay. So what is my slope going to be? So am I going to go up or down? Up 2, right 1. Let's throw another one in there. Up 2, right 1. Take your straight edge. Draw your line from end to end, add arrows on both ends, and then label it. This is 2x minus y is equal to 4. Label it with your original equation, not your new slope-intercept form. Remember, is it coming back to you now? Okay, I know it's been a while, but honestly, you guys were doing this when you were solving systems of solutions. You guys were doing this when you did slope-intercept form, if you're doing anything with velocity. And now that we're looking at rate of change or frequency tables, again, we need to understand this. This is a very important concept when it comes to your higher math. This is something that you really, really need to learn how to do and focus on. Do you have any questions? Okay, so this example is going to help you with 7 through 12. You should already be done with the 5 and 6. 2, 3, and 4 are already in slope-intercept form. You just need to find your M and your B. Right? So I would write M equals B equals. M equals B equals. M equals B equals. Write in that information so you know what you're working with. Here's your opportunity to ask questions. Any questions? Do you think you can do this? All right, get it done.